This is an overview for assignment 2.2. In the first question, you are to calculate the three measures of central tendency for each Andrew, Catherine, and Shannon. Your job is to detect which measure of central tendency best positions each of these three students for their best grade, assuming that you want everyone to get a high grade. In problem 2, you are to compute the mean, mode, and median for each attempt. Be sure that you're going to report this in a correctly formatted table. Use the APA table templates document as a guide. There should be some tables in there that are very close to what you need for this problem. If you have any questions, view the YouTube video on using the APA table templates document. In problem 3, you're going to compute the variance and standard deviation for test 1 and for test 2. The question asks about the relative homogeneity of the two classes. So homogeneity in this context means how similar the scores are. So relative to each other, which group of scores have the highest degree of similarity? Homogeneity is to similarity as heterogeneity is to dissimilarity. So lower variance is associated with homogeneity. Higher variance is associated with heterogeneity. In problem 4, you're asked to compute the standard deviation for these scores. But more importantly, this problem is asking you to explain the standard deviation, not only in context, but also as if you were explaining this to someone who had no background in statistics. So let's look at the context of the problem. The table is a set of scores of training airport security guards, and participants were to identify how many security risks that they observed. Then they told the researcher who recorded how many security risks that they identified. And we'll assume that these are sample data, and which is a good point because unless otherwise specified, all the data in this course are assumed to be sample data. Now, for your final project, you're going to take a random sample, but more about that later in the course. The way that I would approach this part of the problem is, I call it the elevator story. So you have about 60 seconds to tell somebody that you don't really know well and you can't make too many assumptions about what they know about statistics. And the question comes up and you say, well, you know, standard deviation is like this. And you're not going to be talking about the sum of the square deviations and about the mean. You're not going to be talking about formulas. You're going to keep it really high level. And I would also suggest that you visualize what high variability looks like in terms of the normal curve, and then what low variability looks like in terms of the normal curve. So you'll see how that normal curve will spread out as the variance increases. Now, it might help you to understand the formula, but that's not really necessary. If you know about it conceptually and then you can interpret relatively what the standard deviation metrics are, then you probably have a pretty good understanding.